Hackers devised a brilliant plan to steal $1 billion from the National Bank of Bangladesh that even the world's most robust security systems couldn't stop them. They used malware that lurked for a year to spy on the network. They used 3 different time zones and national holidays as their shield. But those who had planned so meticulously made a small mistake, something even a second grader would make. A spelling error shattered their billion-dollar dream. The video captures their joy once again. Nazreen, January 2015. An email was received on the National Bank of Bangladesh's server. It was a phishing email containing a zip file containing a job applicant CV. 3 bank employees not only opened the email, but also downloaded the CV. Unknowingly, their actions became the basis for the biggest theft in Bangladesh's history. The virus in the zip file opened a backdoor into one of the 3 computers. The hackers who sent this email had hit the nail on the head. The target was targeted, and they activated a malware on the infected computer. This wasn't a typical computer virus. It consisted of 3 parts. The first part left a loophole in the bank's private network, opening a backdoor. The second part ensured that any information that passed through this backdoor remained undetected. This means an encrypted channel. The third part was the most dangerous. This virus continuously scanned the bank's network and recorded all activity. Who was doing what? How were money transfers made? Which PCs were open on holidays? And so on. For the next year, the hackers, unnoticed, learned so much about the Bangladesh National Bank's network that even its employees probably didn't know. During this 1 year, they also learned that the National Bank of Bangladesh's foreign currency reserve account was held in the Federal Reserve System in New York. The Federal Reserve System is the central bank of the United States, also known as the Federal Reserve System. Almost all countries in the world keep their foreign currency reserves, or dollars, in the Federal Reserve System. In a way, it's also a bank for banks. For example, if a country wants to import oil, it transfers money from its account in the New York Federal Reserve System to another country's Federal Reserve account. The hackers had already discovered that Bangladesh had billions of dollars in Bangladesh's reserves in the Federal Reserve System. But to transfer money from there, banks around the world use a special system called the Fed. This is the world's largest international bank transfer system. You can think of it as a kind of WhatsApp. However, it's not for the general public, but only for the country's national banks. With its help, billions of dollars are sent from one country to another every day. Now the hackers knew that if they wanted to steal Bangladesh's dollar billion, or dollar core dollars from the New York Federal Reserve, they would need to access this SWIFT software. After penetrating the Bangladesh bank network, the hackers' next mission was to find the computer running the SWIFT software so that they could control it and withdraw money from the New York account. But the hackers only hacked the Bangladesh bank network, not the New York Federal Reserve or the SWIFT system. SWIFT is a highly secure system because it handles the world's most sensitive payments. But like every computer system, it had a vulnerability: human error. Hackers eventually discovered the computer in Bangladesh Bank's network where SWIFT transfers were authorized. Instead of directly hacking the SWIFT system, they began monitoring those computers. For months, the hackers monitored how bank employees logged into the system, typed orders, and verified them. Now, the hackers had learned how to impersonate bank employees, but simply operating the system wasn't enough. The real task was to erase their tracks and avoid detection after the crime. To do this, they accessed the bank's old transfer records and began studying them closely. They observed what the bank typically looks like when it conducts large transactions. When are those transfers made? To whom are they sent? And what details are written with them? They understood all these nuances so that when they carried out the world's biggest heist, the system would think it was just a routine, everyday transfer. Now, they had control of the computer and a solid plan. But here they showed another clever trick. They thought that if they tried to transfer the entire $1 billion in one go, it might raise alarm bells, as extra authorization might be required for such a large sum. So the hackers decided to divide this massive theft into smaller installments. In May 2015, about a year before the heist, 5 accounts were opened at RCBC Bank in Manila, the capital of the Philippines. Only $500 was deposited into each account. and then these accounts remained silent for a year. The exact number is unknown, but 5 accounts were opened in the Philippines and 1 in Sri Lanka, all under false names. By February 2016, the hackers had everything set up. They had access to everything they needed to carry out the crime. It was Thursday, February 4th, 2016, at night, when the bank employees had gone home. The hackers gained access to Bangladesh Bank's network for the last time. They accessed Bangladesh Bank's account, Music, at the New York Federal Reserve Bank, and sent a total of 36 transfer requests, one after the other. These 36 transactions amounted to a total of $951 million. Music, that's just under $1 billion. The masterstroke in this entire plan was the timing of the heist. The hackers not only took advantage of the long weekend, but also devised a brilliant plan under the guise of 3 different time zones around the world: Bangladesh, where the theft was taking place; New York, where the actual money was lying; and the Philippines, where the money was to be sent. These 3 locations had different time zones, and the hackers took full advantage of this time difference. It was Thursday night in Bangladesh, and the weekend began there, as Friday is a holiday there. Banks were closed, and no one was there to observe any suspicious activity. But at the same time, it was Friday morning in New York. While Bangladesh was sleeping, New York FAD employees were coming to work, and it was a common practice for them to process these transfers. Music, from Thursday night until Friday in New York, the hackers had a free hand. But they also played a more ingenious trick. The following Monday, February 8th, was the Chinese New Year holiday in the Philippines. This meant that even if a request was sent to the Philippine bank on Monday to alert and lock accounts, the request would only be received on Tuesday when they log into their Swift software. This meant the hackers had 4 full days from Friday to Monday. 3 countries, 3 time zones, music, and 4 days of silence. It was the most calculated robbery in history. The calculations were perfect, but what could be done about the hurry? It was Friday morning in New York. The Federal Reserve was receiving Swift requests one after another, all seemingly genuine. The Fed began processing these transactions. Millions here, millions there. Money began flowing like water into the hackers' various accounts. Among these transactions was a $20 million transaction that was supposed to go to an account in Sri Lanka. This large sum was intended for a small charity foundation, but the Fed remained unsuspecting. They approved the request, and the money was sent to Sri Lanka via Germany. But a human error along the way turned the tables. While writing Shaley's Foundation in the account title, the hackers mistakenly wrote Shalika Foundation. The O in Foundation was missing. And this mistake wasn't detected by the Fed, but by the German bank. The German bank wrote back to the FD, saying something was amiss. That's when a New York FD was alarmed and realized they'd been scammed. They immediately tried to contact Bangladesh Bank. But it was Friday, the bank was closed, and no one was answering the phone. $81 million had been transferred, but the remaining transactions were held by the FD. Meanwhile, at 4 a.m., the hackers completed their work and logged out of the Swift network. The malware they had installed was now silently erasing all evidence from the system. But the question arises, why, in such a large bank, was there no system in place that could have detected this theft? An HP LaserJet printer was sitting in a corner of the Bangladesh bank office, whose job was to print all Swift transactions. This printer printed every incoming and outgoing transaction, whether it was a holiday or not. But hackers knew about this printer and hacked it so that it would print but only produce blank sheets. An employee was on duty at this printer who was supposed to monitor incoming transactions even on holidays. When he saw the blank prints, he assumed there was a glitch and, without investigating, left the job to Saturday. Saturday morning was nothing short of a disaster for Bangladesh bank officials. On one hand, the printer was producing blank sheets, and on the other, the Swift system was locked. When the system was unlocked after much effort, the staff was devastated. One after another, red flags and warnings from the New York Federal Reserve arrived, but it was too late. The hackers sent a total of 35 requests, of which only 5 were approved. A spelling mistake prevented $1 million from going to Sri Lanka, which also brought the remaining $850 million in transactions under suspicion. But what happened to the $81 million that had already gone to the Philippines? This is where the story gets more interesting. As the hackers had anticipated, Bangladesh Bank sent a stop payment message to RCBC in the Philippines before Monday. But there was no response. Why? Because Monday was a Chinese New Year holiday there. Cash was withdrawn from those 5 accounts as soon as the bank opened on Tuesday morning, even though they had received it after opening Bangladesh's SWIFT messaging system. This is where all suspicion falls on RCBC. The bank manager was accused of deliberately withdrawing cash before the SWIFT system was even opened, from 5 accounts that hadn't seen any transactions in the past year. To launder this money, Manila's major casinos were used. The money was converted into chips at the casinos and then transferred to Hong Kong. The news of this robbery resonated worldwide. Numerous investigations and court cases have taken place over the past several years. Investigators strongly suspected the RCBC bank manager, who allowed the cash withdrawal despite the stop payment message. The court later held that manager responsible for multiple money laundering cases and sentenced him to 7 years in prison on each count. Today, 10 years have passed since this sentence was issued. But neither the hackers nor the 81 million rupees were found. This sentence left the Bangladesh National Bank in a strange state. On one hand, they were saddened by the loss of 81 million rupees, and on the other, they were happy to have saved 850 million rupees due to a spelling mistake. We hope you will like and share this video as well. Thank you very much for your loving comments. See you in the next great video.